What a powerful conversation I just had with Belinda Bailey, my love and relationships expert. In fact, it was more like a live coaching call. You know, I'm all about being authentic and being vulnerable, so I said, hey, let's do this. I did it because I'm currently experiencing a conflict with my intimate partner. I know most of us, in fact, all of us can relate to that. She guided and facilitated me through this process to allow me to see how I was actually feeling and to be able to come from that place rather than being defensive or attacking back. She gave some really practical and simple tools, i.e. when we are being projected on, when somebody is triggered, reacting, standing in front of us, to rather than focus on that, to feel into how must that person be feeling. Because when we can feel into that, we can then respond with love. And yes, it's going to take practice. And for anyone listening, yes, it's something that we're not taught how to do. This is all a new level of learning when it comes to relationships. You know, we're just not educated in this way. So I know this was a very powerful conversation for me, and I trust there is so much for people to take away from. And I do hope you enjoy. So welcome back, Belinda Bailey. I was just taking a few moments before we started because my body is responding to the conversation we're about to have, and I am feeling a sense of nervousness and anticipation for what's to come. So firstly, Belinda is one of my key experts on the couch of the Good News Guide. She is not only my love and relationships expert, she's my own personal coach and has been coaching me since 2018 when I came out of a meditation during a Dr. Joe Dispenza retreat and cracked open to the realization that I was going to leave a marriage that I'd been inside for 20 years. So firstly, I want to say thank you again to Belle for being by my side and insisting me and supporting me in evolving. And so we had this conversation planned out. We were actually going to talk about the topic of staying inside a relationship or leaving, like all the things that come into play in making that decision. But instead, as life would have us, I've found myself in the last 24 hours inside a conflict with my intimate partner. And so this morning when we were chatting, it was like, well, Lisa, this is what you do. And you show up authentically. And part of my mission is to show people or plug people into the resources and the people and the information and the wisdom in order for them to evolve their soul. So today, what we're going to do is I'm going to be coached through this current situation, knowing that if it's in my highest good, that it's going to be in the highest good of anyone that is tuning into this conversation right now. And whatever I get, I know that others will get in my choosing to be vulnerable and in my choosing to evolve inside of an intimate relationship, which is what I've chosen to do. So I'm going to stop talking. And I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thanks, Lisa. Okay, so it's a big, it's a step to step out of the role of presenting now, and I invite you to just sit on your own seat. It's not the couch anymore with the Good News Guide. This is just your seat, and you're just here with me, and we're just going to, like we do so well together, is work through what's going on for you. So you've given me a little bit of the story of what's happened, and I think it's probably good to give a bit of that story here now, but keep it succinct if you can, because we'll dig into different pieces. But as it's present for you now, tell me where you're sitting inside this.
So what I have, as I shared with you this morning through journaling, recognised is due to what happened, the fear that I have only really come into awareness of in the last 18 months is a fear of abandonment. So that was triggered as a result of what happened in the conflict yesterday, and a deep fear of being alone. Now I'm aware of these, but I really was feeling it, and the anxiety that comes from that fear being triggered. So do you want me to go back in and just share a little bit about what happened?
Yeah, I think, okay. I think it's important to get the narrative.
So essentially, I am leveling up in my life as far as the commitment that I give in my word. So if I give my word to something, what I'm now doing is noticing what I'm giving my word to. And if I'm not following through on that, then I am coming back and cleaning it up. And so therefore, when somebody outside of me, i.e. my partner, is committing to his word, is not committing to his word, he's saying something but not committing to it, I cannot not sit there, because that leaves me feeling unsafe. It's like, well, if I can't trust you and trust your word, what can I trust? Now I know it's about my own.
Yeah, let me interject just for a second. So just to bring us back a little bit. So the instance that happened for you was that in the moment that came up, there was a recognition that he, what are we going to call him? Can we give him a name?
Darling.
Okay, the darling. I'm going to ask you to choose another word because that's loaded, and I don't want to ruin that word for you. Okay. So let's call him John. Shall we call him John?
Yeah.
Okay. So John and you were having a conversation, and it came up that he'd said he wanted to do something with his life, and it's been a while, and there's been reasons and everything, but when it came to the fore recently, he hasn't done it still, and you questioned him as to, well, why aren't you doing it? And he said that he feels like he's been letting you down because he hasn't done it, and your response is that you haven't let me down, but you're letting yourself down basically because you haven't done what you said you were going to do. And he then said that he feels like he's letting you down. He didn't even say feels like, he just said, I'm letting you down, which you felt like he was projecting that onto you. That making you responsible for his feeling of feeling like he let you down, which is never healthy in a relationship, but it happens all the time. And your response to that was, no, I'm not. You haven't let me down, but I told you that this is what I want. This is the kind of lifestyle that I want to have. I want to have a big life, and you committed to that, and now it's not happening. Is that it? Is there anything else you want to add to that?
Well, I then asked, can you share with me, are you committed to that? Are we still committed to that aligned vision, purpose, which is something I know you talk about, because I'd stated from the outset what it is that I'm creating for my life, and is this something that you want as well?
Yeah. And did you ask that question?
Yep.
Again? Is this something you want as well? And what was his response?
At the start, yes. And he's
still saying... At the start, meaning at the start yesterday or at the start months ago?
12 months, 13 months.
Yeah. So, but yesterday, did you specifically say, do you still want this?
Yes, I did. Yep.
And what was his response?
Yes, I do, but I'm not leveling up, or I'm not doing it in the time frame that you want it to happen.
So let me ask you, Lisa, what stopped you from saying, and you prefaced this by saying it's triggered your abandonment, and I get that, and we'll get to that, but I'm really interested in the relationship, as you know, and where that's going to go and how we can preserve that or level the whole relationship up. So not just yourself, but the relationship and the relating itself with him. And so I want to ask you, when he said, I'm not doing it, I'm not doing what you want me to do, how did that make you feel?
It made me question, do I expect too much? Is it me that's expecting this from him? So I questioned.
Okay. So what's going on here? And forgive me, I've not done this way before, so I want to give as much content as necessary, and I want to give as much value as I can in the time frame that we have. So, Lisa, I might go a bit more quickly into little nooks and crannies that might feel a bit uncomfortable, but just stay with me and talk to me as we go. There's some passive aggressive behaviour going on from his behalf, and probably yours as well. We do this in relationships, we really do, because we're afraid to say what we really think and feel, but there's a part of us that has to say it, so it comes out in these snide little ways instead. Now, him saying to you, I'm not living up to your expectations. That's a loaded thing to say. There's something else going on for him in there. There's something going on for him. He's got a feeling behind that, clearly. If we were to put his statement into personally responsible feeling words, it would sound something like, I feel like I'm letting you down. Now, that lands in a really different way than I'm letting you down, doesn't it? Yeah. If he was able to say, I feel like I'm letting you down, that puts him in a more vulnerable position, and it kind of enlists you. It makes you more to desire to be there for him, to listen to us. There's more care. Is that right?
And the word that just came through was open. So what happened is, and I said to him when he shared that, I can feel, it was like I felt like my chest contracted. I was almost finding it hard to breathe because it just shut down, like it was just closed off.
Because what also happens there when he says that to you in that passive-aggressive way, and I want, when he watches this, because I know him and I know he's a wonderful man, and I want him to know, and everybody else who's listening to know, that we're all passive-aggressive in relationships in one way or another. So this is not he's not alone here. But when he says that to you in that passive-aggressive way, it does something else which is really, really detrimental, and it takes away your freedom to actually have your own personal responsible feeling to what's going on. Because, to be honest, in that moment, it's possible, Lisa, that you are feeling let down, but that's okay if you are. That's not bad. That does not make you the bad person here who's asking too much, who's being too intense, who's the evil witch here. And that's what it does when someone says to you, when he says to you, oh, I'm letting you down, what he's really saying is, oh, I've done really bad, and I'm a bad boy, and you're telling me I'm bad and therefore I'm bad. And so that puts you in a position of going, oh, no, I don't think that. And you're not given the freedom to explore, have I let you down? Now, a mature, healthy, mature emotional relationship instead would say something like, I feel like I'm letting you down. And that would give you a position then to say, to feel into it. Let's do this right now. Feel into it, Lisa. Imagine he says to you in that situation instead, I feel like I'm letting you down. What would you like to say in response?
I feel like you're letting you down. And in letting you down, you're letting not me, but us. It's affecting us.
Okay, so it is affecting you. Me not reaching those goals or doing what I do, it is affecting you, isn't it? Okay. And you know what, Lisa, it's okay that it's affecting you. And what you and I are doing right now, we're having a mature relationship where we can work through these challenges because you're allowed to have those feelings.
It's interesting what came through then when you were saying that was, that's mean, Lisa. So I was judging my response.
You were.
Yeah.
But you weren't on your own there. His way of approaching it was making you the meanie. The way he said it, it inferred that you're a meanie to make me feel like I'm letting you down. And he was making it your fault. He was making it wrong and bad that you feel let down. And it's not wrong or bad to feel let down, Lisa. If you feel let down, that's not a nice thing to feel. Now, if you stood in front of this man and said, you're letting me down, that's one thing. But to recognise and say, communicate, I feel let down. You're a very mature, emotionally mature and conscious being, and you do have the capacity to sit in that and actually consciously bring that to the table in your relationship without it being a projected blame on him. You are capable of doing it. I'm not going to say that you would do it right every time. I don't do it right every time either. And this is what happens in our relationships. It is very interesting that I was talking to you how we're going to be doing conflicts in a masterclass coming up soon, which will be in the past when people see this. But this is very much what we do in conflict. This is what I've been really delving into just recently, how you and John have a conflict, and this particular topic is an ongoing one. This is not new. And it's normal to have conflict in relationship. It's necessary. It's an opportunity to actually know the person more deeply and to be seen more deeply. And even if it's not that, we're going to have conflict. There's going to be things we don't agree on. But the way that we deal with conflict is extremely immature and unskilled as a human race.
Oh, so aware of this. And this is what I continue to say, is that if we can do conflict in a healthy way, it's going to bring us into deeper connection with each other. But it takes a new way of being. It takes new skills. It takes a new level of learning, because we're not taught.
No. So in this instance with you, let's come back to you. So you do feel a bit let down. You feel like letting the relationship down a little bit. Let's explore that. How does it make you feel when you feel let down? What does that do to you? Where does that take your body and your mind?
I'm disappointed.
Yeah. Okay, so Lisa, you are a bit disappointed with him at the moment. And you know what? That's okay. It's okay. But you, Lisa, we've worked together a lot, and I know for you that being disappointed is not okay in some ways because you're afraid to be disappointed. You're afraid to be let down because you're afraid that it's going to mean that you can't be together.
Yeah.
And you're not alone with that. One of the biggest reasons that we do conflict poorly in relationships is because we have this silly belief that if we have a conflict, we're going to have to break up. If there's something about the person we don't like, we have to break. It's a sign that we have to break up. And what I want to tell you is that if you have conflict or disagreements, or there's something you don't like about your partner, it's a sign that you're two human beings. That's it. I promise you that's it.
It's fascinating, Belle, where I realise where my mind so quickly goes when it's like, well, then this must mean that's it.
That's right.
Yeah. I just get hijacked so quickly.
Yeah. You do, and it's okay. Again, you're not alone. This is so many years of programming, but there's another way. Okay, there really is. I'm going to give you a few things that you can work with practically, okay? One of them is to know that when we're in conflict, it's either superficial or fundamental. 98% of the time it's superficial. The only time it's fundamental is if there's a core value that's in conflict with your partner's core value. Now, having core values, they don't have to be the same, but when they're in direct conflict, that can be a major issue, and it will require external assistance, and often those relationships don't succeed. But I'm telling you, that's like 2 to 5% of the time, honestly. So of people, I mean, most conflicts are superficial. Okay? So knowing that, there's some things that you can do. I'm going to give you a few tools that you can take into it for real in your relationship with John, okay? I mean, for you, first of all, we've had a little bit of a breakthrough today. It's a nice, gentle, but very meaningful breakthrough, okay? You're allowed to have what you feel in the relationship. Don't blame him. Okay, so this is going to go into, we're going to go into the tools to use, okay? When you're going into conflict, or when you're in conflict, the first thing is to walk away. Now, that's hard for you because you're afraid of being abandoned. Okay?
So, oh my goodness. Oh, that is the thing that I find The hardest.
I know. But what you need to know is that it doesn't mean not have the conversation. It means walk away for a moment and process your own emotions. And that means for you, it's probably journaling. I encourage walking, jogging, jumping up and down, moving your body, changing your state. Often, after doing that, you're able to let it go. Often we kind of go, oh, I was being a bit of a dick. Oh, I'm premenstrual, tired. That's often the case. But when it's not, and it's also often not, then we go into the conflict resolution. But you need to do that first, because otherwise you're in the same level of mind. You know, as Albert Einstein says, that you can't resolve a conflict using the same level of mind that created the conflict. So you have to change your state. And for you, Lisa, once you recognize the value in that and do it, you'll find that everything else will be easy, and you probably will let things go more than you think you will.
I really, really already, you sharing that, I can already see and feel how effective.
Yeah,
it's
huge.
This alone will be.
Yeah. Let's back it up just one step. What's really good is at the very beginning, you need to get a good foundation in your relationship, just in yourself, of understanding that, you know, convince yourself and make it your mantra. There will be conflict in my relationship. There's going to be things about my partner that I do not like. Most conflict is superficial. It doesn't mean we need to break up. If you really ingrain this first, and then this is something that I didn't mention that I want to mention, in the power of letting it go. The truth is, we're going to have arguments. We're going to have conflicts. We're going to not like this and not like that. It's going to happen a lot. And if we're putting all of our attention on every little thing that comes up, it's boring. And it's also unnecessary, because often these conflicts arise for, like, it really is because we're tired, or we've got we're premenstrual and we've got too much on our plate. So when we go and change our state, often we go, oh, we can let it go. But right up front, we need to recognize that we're going to have conflict in relationship. Don't sweat the small stuff. If you focus on every single conflict, that's what you're going to be focusing on. So instead, learn to let it go. Choose to let it go. Choose to let it go, knowing that your conflict is superficial. If you can't let it go, then possibly it's a fundamental one where there's core values that are in conflict, and that's when you need to go deeper. Yeah. But if it's not, then just let it go. Now, when you if you walk away, you change your state and you let it go, and you go, yeah, not quite working this time, I'm not letting it go, that's fine. Then we go into conflict resolution. And there's a few things you want to do. First of all, recognize that conflict means that, if you're having any sort of conflict with your partner, Lisa, and especially a reoccurring one like this, there is an opportunity, and you say this, there's an opportunity to go deeper. Because clearly the way he spoke to you, he's in defense. He's in defense and attack at the same time. And you went straight into defense mode. You weren't attacking, but you went straight into defense. So he said, I'm letting you down. That's a defense and an attack at the same time, because it's passive aggressive. And your response was, no, you're not. I'm defending. But in actual fact, he was. So recognizing that when we have these things arise, that if anyone's defending or attacking, then what you're doing is both of you are trying to protect your vulnerability. You were, and he was too. Clearly, under what he said, he feels some big stuff, not nice stuff. So when this arises for you again, Lisa, and you've changed your state, you're going to feel that vulnerability inside yourself. See if you can approach him, just as we spoke before about not blaming him, which you're very capable of doing. You're very capable, and you do very often bring it to the table. I feel disappointed. There's no blaming it. But a little key I want to give you for him, and this is the really cool hack, okay, especially for women with men, but for everyone. He's clearly triggered as well, right? Clearly. And he's blaming you. without saying it's your fault. He's clearly blaming you for the situation. I'm letting you down. Poor me. You're a meanie. Instead of hearing the blame, in the same way that you know how to move beyond blaming him for how you feel, but instead come to the feeling, use your skill and your heart to hear what he's feeling behind what he's saying. He may not have that level of skill or emotional communication skill to instead say, oh, Lisa, I feel like I'm letting you down. But if he says, I'm letting you down, can you listen behind that? Oh, well, what must he be feeling? And everything's going to be saying to you, oh, he's being an asshole, I'm scared, all this stuff. But listen. He must be feeling like he's not very good, or like he's not good enough, or he's hurting, or maybe he's scared he's hurting, he's letting me down. What's he feeling? See if you can respond to that instead. If you were to do that in this situation, Lisa, if he had come to you and said, oh, yeah, well, I'm letting you down. I haven't kept up my end of the bargain. I'm letting you down. And you were listening to what he's feeling, what would you say? What could you say?
Well, I can feel his disappointment with himself.
So if you can feel that coming from the man in front of you, just close your eyes. You can feel that he's feeling disappointed with himself. And this is the man that you love. How do you respond? In this moment, you can feel that sadness, that disappointment, that pain in him. What do you want to say or do to this person?
Again, it's the same words, darling. Oh, I was going to say, darling, you're not letting me down, but I have felt let down. So this is where...
Yeah, stay with it. So here he is in front of you, and you can feel that he's disappointed in himself. Let's swap him out and make him one of your sons. Stay there, stay with it. You have one of your sons who says, and he's saying whatever, he's saying blah, blah, blah. That's what you hear from his mouth, but you feel he's feeling really disappointed with himself. How do you want to respond?
I want to love him. I want to move towards him and hold him. And
Now, how does it feel when you do that to John in that situation?
warm and loving.
And how do you think he responds? How does he respond?
He softens. Yeah.
You know, so much of the work that we do together, you and I, has been about working out where the wounds are and how to heal them, and there's such value in that. You've done a lot of that already. And you will continue to do more of that because that's the path that you're on. Being in a relationship, wounds come to the surface, and it's great to heal them and work with them, but in a relationship can also be a sanctuary for us to come and rest. And there will be conflict in a relationship, but if we can decide that we're here to love and be loved, then we let that be our guiding rudder. And when conflict comes up, we're in it, and it's really hard to remember all the conscious little things to do. But if you've already made the decision, I'm in this to love and be loved, and we're going to have conflict, it's normal, then you start to look to ways to deal with the conflict with love, to come back to love.
It's really interesting you're saying this, because I have connected with a guy in Western Australia who's a heart coach, and he talks about it's around communication inside relationships, all forms of relationships. And something I heard him say was, when we can choose to love another more than needing to be right or standing in opposition, And it really resonated. And I spoke to John about this and said, I want to commit to that. That was only in the last 10 days.
Right.
And so that actually came through yesterday, which is what had me, what had me asking and curious about how he was feeling, that was having him say these things.
Yeah. And so you're on the right track, but now you have a tool to elicit that in a way that takes him needing to know how to communicate out of the equation. Because, you know, when people are yelling at us, I know he's probably not yelling, but they're angry or they're in conflict within themselves and they're not open and they're hard and they're tough, we know that there's something else going on. But why do we need them to name it? You know, if we could actually feel, and you can feel what is really going on for him, but it's not your job to name it either. You don't want to say, oh no, you're feeling disappointed in yourself. That is not going to go down well. That is you telling him how he feels, and no one likes to be told how they feel. And you did do that. You told him that. And that's okay, Lisa, because you actually are on the right track, but you didn't have the tool. This is a golden tool that I'm giving you. It's golden. It's so simple. It's simple for you because you've done the work to learn how to recognize when I want to blame someone, but actually come back to how I feel and take responsibility. All I'm giving you now is a tool to reverse that. When you feel like he's attacking or defensive, ask yourself to let go of the mental projection of what it means or where it's coming from, and instead feel what he's feeling. And don't say that's how you feel. Instead, respond to that feeling. Hug him. Oh, darling, I'm so sorry you feel this way. Or just hug him. I love you. And it doesn't mean that you're not allowed to feel disappointed. You could still feel disappointed, but that's not what's going on. It's his feeling that you need to connect to.
So good. And this is why I am such a advocate of, if you want to live a life where you're more liberated and more from our hearts and from love, we need somebody. We don't need, but we can choose somebody outside of us to see what's really at play, because ultimately we all want to be loved and to love and to be in connection. And so whatever's standing in the way of that is what we need to be shown in order to then be empowered by things like you've just given me, these tools, so that I can then go and integrate them for something to transform. Because otherwise it's the same, we live out the same patterns, the same types of conflict. It is just same. And it's, aside from the fact it's boring, it's
destroys.
Painful. It's painful.
And I'm glad you said the wounds. We need to, there's often wounds that block us from being able to love, and we need to work on them. We need to melt them away. And then we need to learn skills. That's often the thing that some of us miss, is that we can do a lot of work on ourselves, but then relationships take skill. They really do. They take learning new skills we haven't learned. And then it becomes a little bit easier. And we do need someone or something outside of ourselves. When we're still in our unconscious patterns, we do need something outside of ourselves that can bring it into conscious awareness. And we need to heal, and so we can heal that by bringing it into wholeness. And then we need to learn some skills. Okay, well, now let's do it properly. Let's relate properly. And in relationships, we need to it's great to decide what your relationship's for, and you have. I hear that you have. You were at my wedding, and our commitment, our vows were to love. We have vowed a commitment to love, not to each other, but to love. And so for us, that's our guiding rudder. So it's not about being right. It's not even about becoming conscious. for us, our relationship, even though we do use it to do that, but that's not the guiding rudder. The guiding rudder is love. How can we love more in this moment? It's very specific. And when you can make a commitment like that in your relationship, you can be on the same page, and you know that that's what your commitments do. Then when conflict arises, who's right? And if you're going to get to the end of it, it becomes secondary, not always irrelevant, but secondary. Once you come back to love, like you just did then in that moment, and it'll be very different when you see him now, and I know that you're going to be excited to see him because there's been a shift, then there may be an underlying issue that needs to be approached. And you can do that coming from love. And when you have a more robust skill set like you have been developing yourself, you could do that on your own, or you might need some outside help to help facilitate that. If it's a really chunky one that does come up against core values, and this one for you, Lisa, as I've worked with you before, I can say I don't believe that you guys have conflicting core values, but I do know that this particular area is part of your core values. So it might be a bit clunky, and you might need some help, but you might not. You might not. When it comes up against core values, when they get involved, it can be a bit challenging, a bit more challenging. But yeah, come back. You did a great job just now to come back, to bring it back to love, and and remember, he's calling out for love. He's in pain and doesn't know how to say, so he's making it your fault.
And it is even, my body, there's a softness and an openness and not the judgment that obviously was going on without me knowing. Well, actually, no, I think I was aware by me questioning myself. I was judging myself. So for me, it's not always been journaling, but I'm finding I'm just getting such clarity about what's going on in this mind of mine, this construct that's been created. So can we just go over, for those people listening, because what you've given me and therefore given anyone that's tuning in is simple, but as I've just experienced, really beautiful and transformational. And so it's just about practicing it. So can we just go over?
Sure. And if you like, Lisa, I'd be happy to share. I have a process that I give to my people in my work. And if you would like me to share that as a resource for your members in the membership program, I'd be happy to do that too.
Amazing. Would love that.
So it's all very specifically written down. But for those who are listening now, very simply, up front or out the back, whichever way you're looking at it, the first thing that we need to do is have a few recognitions in the relationship, and that is that there's going to be conflict, there's going to be things about your partner that you don't like. That's going to happen. That when we have conflict, it doesn't mean we need to break up. They're really important things. Making a commitment to love means that you can let it go, choose to let it go. When you're in conflict, choose to let it go. The one thing that some people who are listening, there'll be a little thing that comes up, a little voice that says, but what if it's an actual issue that we need to deal with? I can guarantee you that when you come to the let go part, you'll know if it is or not. And if it is, then it's probably a core value and you will need extra help with that. I guarantee you that more often than not, it is a superficial conflict. So learn to let it go, or choose to let it go. And then when we approach the situation, recognise that if ever there's conflict, one of us or both of us are trying to protect our vulnerability through being defensive or attacking. That's what's happening in this moment. No sense can be made from it. So walk away, process your own emotions by going for a jog or journaling or just, moving your body. And as you do that, you might actually become aware of some of the external factors, like I haven't slept very well, or I have a bit of, hormonal things going on right now, or haven't eaten. There might be lots of things going on for you. As you do that, once you've done that, then let it go. And you'll find, because you've processed and moved so often, you'll be able to just let it go and you'll just be unburdened. For those occasions where it's not going to let go, you need to tune in. If there's a conflict on a core value, like I said, then you need to get some extra help. Otherwise, what you do then is you approach the situation differently. Because you've walked away, you haven't engaged in the old way of conflict, you come then to the position and make sure that if you're the one who's talking about how you feel, you don't do any blaming. It's, I feel sad, or I feel scared, or I feel confused. And then say nothing. Remember, leaving the gap. Say nothing. Because that gives them the opportunity to come to you and to crack open. But this is the really important thing that I think for you, especially Lisa, and I think probably for a lot of your listeners, most of your listeners have already come to be able to embody that part of communicating in a relationship, that we make it about me and how I feel rather than it's you, what you've done wrong. So it's not about their behaviour, it's about how I feel. Most of your listeners do that. The real gold here is that when your partner, and this is intimate partners, this is anyone, this is your children, this is your in-laws, this is your people you work with, but in this case, our intimate partners are saying something to you and it's clearly a conflict. It's not feeling right, they're angry or they're projecting and you feel shitty about it. Stop and remember, I love this person. Mm-hmm. I love this person. And clearly there's something that they're feeling beneath that's put them into this spin. What are they feeling? And just take a guess. You don't have to be right, but your guess is going to be that they're scared or they feel disappointed or they're not happy. You're going to get it somewhere along the line that they're not feeling good. Respond to that. Don't mention it to them. Don't use your words to tell them what they're feeling. Instead, if the person in front of you is feeling sad, how do you want to respond? And they'll be talking. Some of them just go on and on and on with all this bullshit. You're going to have to put your earmuffs on and just hear blah, 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 blah. But really tune into a different radio station. Tune into what they're feeling. And you start to hear, I'm scared, I'm sad, I'm sad, I'm scared, I'm hurt, I'm hurt. And then you love this person. So respond to that. There will be an opening. Mm.
I know that this call to do this conversation this way was perfect, Belle, because what my intention, you talk about your intention inside your relationship with Warwick is of love, which I'm all about intention, and I'm going to commit to, again, which I have really just got clear in the last couple of weeks, is committed to being to loving him and receiving love beyond what else is going. So that's the number one, because that will be my guiding light, as you've just said. But I know, just going back, that I'm so pleased that we've had this conversation, not obviously just for self, because I know that my intention is to give as much value and be in contribution and service to everyone that I connect with. And these conversations are for that, to facilitate people's awareness and their own growth and their coming back to love. So I'm grateful that you've been able to take me through that process. I'm grateful that I was able to stay inside it. And, as I said, I wasn't sure if I was going to cry the whole time, but it just was it was actually a really gentle process. So for anyone that's listening that is afraid, because I know there are people that are afraid of delving into this work because they're afraid of what it's going to bring up and it's going to be hard. I hope that you got from this conversation that it doesn't have to be that way, and it's not always that way. In fact, if you've got a really great coach, it's not about it being hard. Yes, you've got to connect with the things that are inside you. But if you've got a trusted person that is able to guide you through that, then why would you not? So for anyone listening that has just been blown away by the process that Belinda's taken me through, Belle, can you share with people how they can connect with you? I know that you're about to launch so by the time this is aired, you will have started your next Love Codes program, but can you share with us a little bit about that?
Sure. So anyone can join, or any woman. At the moment, my masterclasses are just for women. I run a monthly masterclass, and when you do join up, you get your first month for free. So that's like a really great way, an entry point into working with me, because it's very low cost but high value, and it's live. And then the program that I run is a 3-month intensive training. And it's called the Love Codes program. And I will be launching, I think we'll just have launched or be launching the next one. I run a few a year. So you're very welcome to look into that and to contact us if you want information about it. It's all over my website and what have you. But I also have the Getting to Know the Love Codes program, which is a 4-hour audio training that is quite intensive in itself. And that's another entry point as well. There's a lot of value and content on my website that you can go to. But I also have lots of resources and little gifts through the membership program here on the Good News Guide. So go and check it out and see what you can find. There's lots of pieces.
And I will also share that inside the membership, Belinda's one of my experts. Again, she'll be running a masterclass soon. And I, as my gift to the membership community, I'm gifting 5% discount off any of Belinda's programs, audio, love codes, etc., because I'm so invested and endorsing the programs that I've done the Love Codes program for anyone that's listening, and I've obviously got enormous value to the point that I continue to work with Belle. So that is my gift to the membership community who engage with Belinda's work. So just wanted to add that because that's a new thing as of 2021. So again, thank you so much for all the work that you do with me and in the world, and for this conversation. It's been transformational, and I imagine for anyone tuning in, the same for them. And if you want to get in contact with Belinda, we'll have all her links below the conversation. And is there anything else you'd like to say before we say goodbye?
Just that you're beautiful, Lisa, and thank you for having the courage to be vulnerable and share that with everybody, and a nice reminder what it means to be courageous. Curse something or other, I forget the translation, but it means to tell one's story with their whole heart. Mm-hmm. And that certainly is what you do. So thank you to you.
I love that. Thank you. I do hope you enjoyed that conversation with Belinda and I. If you are watching on YouTube and you're not already subscribed, please press subscribe, and would love any comments about this conversation or others. We'd love your engagement. We'd love to be able to deliver more of what you want. If you're also listening on a podcast, please share any comments about this conversation or write a review if you feel called to. Until next time, heaps of love to you.